Serve us, Btch. Thugs harassed a waitress in the diner, then bikers walked in. It was one of those nights when the world outside looked cruel and gray, where the rain beat against the cracked diner windows like it was trying to wash away the sins of everyone inside. The neon sign flickered, Rosie's Diner, its red glow bleeding through the glass onto the face of a young woman who stood behind the counter, her eyes tired but kind. Her name was Emily Carter, a waitress barely in her mid-20s, wearing a faded blue apron and a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Life had not been gentle with her. She had dreams once, of studying nursing, maybe opening her own cafe one day, but dreams don't pay the bills. Not when you're alone, not when your mother's medicine costs more than your weekly pay, and definitely not when you're stuck working the night shift for people who treat you like a servant rather than a soul. And that night, that was the night that broke something inside her. Before the story continues, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and standing up for what's right, please take a second to like, comment, share, and subscribe to channel name, because stories like this one remind us that humanity still exists, even in the darkest corners of the world. The diner door swung open with a violent clang, and in came three men whose presence sucked the warmth right out of the room. Their leather jackets were damp from the rain, their boots heavy, their laughter sharp and mean. They looked around, sneering, their eyes landing on Emily like wolves spotting prey. The smell of beer clung to them, mixed with smoke and arrogance. The first one, a broad, red-faced man with tattoos running down his neck, slammed his fist on the counter and shouted, "Hey, sweetheart. Serve us, Btch. We've been waiting all day to see that pretty face." The word echoed across the diner, shattering the calm. Emily froze. Her fingers tightened around the coffee pot, her knuckles white. She forced herself to breathe, to stay calm, to smile, because that's what her boss told her, the customer is always right. But the tremor in her voice betrayed her as she whispered, "Of course, sir. What can I get you?" They laughed. Not because she said something funny, but because they enjoyed watching her flinch. One of them reached across the counter and tugged at her apron strings, while another snapped his fingers an inch from her face, demanding extra sugar. The other customers, an old couple, a truck driver, a mother with a sleeping child, kept their heads down, pretending not to see. No one wanted trouble. Emily felt her eyes burn, not from fear, but from humiliation. She wanted to scream, to run, but her mother's face flashed in her mind, frail, smiling weakly from her hospital bed, and so Emily stayed. The rain outside grew heavier, thunder rumbling like an angry warning from above. Just when the laughter of the thugs grew loud enough to drown out the sound of her breaking heart, the diner door creaked open again. This time, it wasn't with arrogance, but quiet, deliberate power. The kind that doesn't need to announce itself. 4 men walked in. Bikers. Their leather jackets were worn, their boots scuffed, their presence commanding. The tallest among them, a bearded man with gray streaks in his hair and a deep scar running across his cheek, took a slow look around the diner. His eyes, cold steel and compassion mixed together, landed on Emily, and then on the men at the counter. The laughter faded like smoke. Emily tried to keep serving the coffee, her hands trembling, but when the biggest thug grabbed her wrist and yanked her closer, the sound of a chair scraping the floor sliced through the tension. The scarred biker stood up. "You might want to let go of the lady," he said in a voice calm enough to scare the devil himself. The thug laughed, but his voice cracked. "What's it to you, old man?" The biker stepped closer, his boots echoing on the tiled floor. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "She's working. You're acting like trash." "I don't like trash." The room went still. Even the rain seemed to pause. The other bikers, silent but ready, stood behind him, a wall of unspoken promise. One of them leaned against the jukebox, another folded his arms, and the air thickened with tension. The thugs exchanged glances, trying to decide if their pride was worth the pain that clearly awaited them. The scarred biker tilted his head. "Walk away," he said softly, "and you get to keep your teeth tonight." For a long, dangerous second, it seemed like a fight would break out. But the thugs, realizing they were outnumbered and outmatched, muttered curses under their breath and stumbled out into the rain. The door slammed shut behind them. Silence. Just the hum of the neon sign and Emily's shaky breathing. She didn't know what to say. The biker turned to her, his face softening. "You okay, sweetheart?" he asked gently. She nodded, though her lips trembled. "Thank you," she whispered. "You didn't have to." He shook his head. "No one should have to take that kind of disrespect. Not ever." They sat down quietly, ordered black coffee, and treated her like a human being, like she mattered. As she served them, something in her heart began to thaw. The scarred man noticed her swollen eyes, the exhaustion behind her forced smile, and asked softly, "Rough life, huh?" Emily hesitated, but somehow, his tone made her open up. She told him about her mother's illness, about the bills piling up, about the nights she cried in the backroom when customers mocked her. She didn't even realize she was crying again until he handed her a napkin. The man listened without interruption, without pity, just quiet respect. When they finished their coffee, he stood and placed a folded envelope on the counter. "That's for you," he said. "For the medicine. For your mom." Emily blinked in confusion. "I can't take this." But they were already walking toward the door. When she opened the envelope, her hands began to shake. Inside was a note that read, "From the writer's brotherhood, you're stronger than you know. Keep fighting." And beneath it, a stack of $100 bills, more money than she had seen in months. She ran to the door, calling after them, but they were already gone, their bikes roaring into the night like thunder fading into hope. She stood there in the rain, tears mixing with the drops, clutching the note to her chest. For the first time in years, she felt seen. She felt safe. She felt like maybe the world still had good people left. That night, Emily stayed late to clean the diner. As she wiped the counter, she smiled at her reflection in the window. The girl staring back wasn't the same one who stood there trembling hours ago. She had been reminded of something powerful, that even in a cruel world, kindness can still roar louder than hate. Weeks later, a line of motorcycles pulled into the diner again. Emily ran outside, her heart pounding, but this time it wasn't fear, it was gratitude. She thanked them through tears, hugging the man who had stood up for her. He just smiled and said, "We all need someone to stand up for us sometimes. You do the same when your turn comes, all right?" And she did. Months later, Emily had saved enough to move her mother into better care. The diner became known for its warmth and its story, the story of the night the bikers walked in. People came not just for the food, but for the feeling that maybe, just maybe, decency still existed in this world. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to channel name, because the world needs more people who believe in kindness, courage, and doing what's right even when no one else will. Speech balloon special request, drop a comment below and tell us, have you ever stood up for someone who couldn't stand up for themselves? Your story might inspire someone else to do the same.